Welcome to the First Gen American podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Toporek, and I'm a first-generation American. My dad was born in Siberia in 1942 and my mom in Turkey in 1943. I used to be ashamed and embarrassed that my family was different. We spoke different languages. We ate different foods. We were working class in an affluent area of Long Island, New York. In my 20s, through my awakening and journey of self-exploration, I realized how appreciative I needed to be given the sacrifice my parents made to give their children better opportunity. I realized that being first-generation American was more of a superpower than something to be ashamed of. Since then, I celebrated my background, harnessed these values into who I am today, embodying all these qualities into everything I do. In each episode, I'll be interviewing first-generation Americans, helping them tell their stories. I hope you enjoy the show. Please subscribe and like the show, and feel free to send comments or even interviewee suggestions. Thanks for listening. All right, so now let's talk about how you met Daddy.
How I met.
So you're living in the trailer, you're going to school, you're running through the orchard. Yes, I want to know.
You know what? I did all my errands. I went to work. I did everything with bicycle. And he did with bicycle. But anyway, we belong to a group. They called it the Shomer Atsair. This is like a
Watcher of the young. That's what it means in English.
Like
Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts, something Girl Scout.
Teen.
A mix.
Yeah.
So he came 19th to Israel. And I was in the trailer house. So I used to go to school. On my way to school, I had a friend. I passed by in the morning and we went because she lived close to the school. And we used to go to school. We were very, very good friends. We did homework together. Once she came to my trailer house, once to hers, not trailer, she had a house, a big house from the Arabs. In good condition, they were lucky to get it. So she used, sometimes would stay till late in her house. And she used to come with me halfway at the dark, And the halfway I went home to we're not talking to a trailer house anymore, to the real.
To the real house. But you met him when you were at the...
Yes, I met him there.
But you were just in school.
But not I met him. I was in school. I finished school, and then he was in Shomer Atsair.
Okay.
And now he was this coaching at 9 years old in Shomer Atsair.
Okay.
And his brother was in my group.
Because he's your age?
Who?
Richie.
No, he's not my age. I'm older.
Okay. Oh, right.
And he was in a kibbutz 1 year. And then his parents, they took him out of the kibbutz.
Daddy was in the kibbutz, yes.
Yeah, and he to work. But he didn't learn any English, Hebrew.
Right.
And he wanted to belong with the group in Shomer Atsair. And so one day, my friend, she walked with me halfway to my house. And when he comes with his bike, and she had a dog, and he said to her, her name was Hannah. Hannah, you can go back home. I'm going to walk her all the way to her house. And he got off the bike and he was walking with the bike. He always went everywhere with the bike, me too. But we were walking at that time. And then he says, I saw you teaching kids like third, fourth grade, this Hebrew and math. I'll pay you. Teach me from the beginning of this language.
Very clever.
So I said, no, I don't want it. I said, I don't want I had a boyfriend, Bulgarian. And my parents, they loved him so much. And like 2 months, we were not separately, in a group. We're little kids. And I said, no, I don't want it.
Not little kids, teenagers.
Teenagers. I don't want you should come. Okay, so one day he saw me with this guy. His name was Chaim, and he caught him and he said, took him aside, told him, if I see you again with her, I'm going to break your legs.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah. That kid, he got so scared. He was my age. He got so scared, he never came close to me anymore. So, okay, he started. So he was already 17, no, 16 and a
16.
half,
Yeah.
16. And okay, he was close to me in a group, and he says, no, I want to go with you separately to go to movies and stuff like that. Okay. So my parents, they didn't know they were going to kill me at that time. No.
But they let you date the other guy
The other guy, yes.
because he was Bulgarian?
And he spoke Ladino and
He spoke
Bulgarian.
Ladino and
Yeah.
he spoke Hebrew. Okay.
So, okay, I said, no, leave me alone and stuff like that. I don't want you, my parents will kill me. That's the way it started from movies and there and there. As he was 17 and a half. They took him to the army. No,
But you were
17.
You fast forward a little bit. So you're dating at this point.
We were dating already. The first time in my life that I asked my mom to go shopping for a dress.
And she
I
asked,
never wore a dress.
and she asked you why?
She asked, well, what's the matter? I said, no, nothing. I just want a dress with little flowers, very modest. I always liked to, I was very kibbutznik. I used to go every summer after school to kibbutzim to work from 5 o'clock, till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
And they switch from banana trees, apple trees,
So
olive,
you were farming.
farming, and babysitting. All the cribs they were outside.
Do you remember where the kibbutz was?
Yes, yes.
Where was it?
My Betzera, and Golan Heights.
Oh, so it's north. Okay.
Up north.
Yeah.
But every summer I went Yad Mordechai. This is towards Gaza. Yad Mordechai already went with him, and Hannah, she found a boyfriend too. So we used to go, but it was fun. Like
So-
Saturday, you were off.
So what was it like dating him? What drew you to him? Because he didn't speak the
He
language.
didn't speak.
He had been to many different countries at that point.
Yes.
But so what drew you to him?
I don't know. He was a big talker.
A big talker not knowing the language?
A big talker with his hands and whatever. But slowly, the minute he got to the army, he was learning through. When he was in the army, you don't come home. You just send a letter. After 2 weeks, you receive the letter. So he used to send every day a letter. And
But at that point, you're serious at that point.
yes, yeah, very serious.
So I'm trying to understand, you've got this annoying guy that talks a lot.
Yeah, okay, I think. Oh no, who wanted him? My friend Hannah. So I was in her house, and one day he came with the bike. Everybody knew we are best friends. He was whistling, the whistle.
Yeah, I can't do it
So
anymore.
the whistle. And she told me, hide, he's looking for you. Hide in one of the bedrooms. She went out and she said to him, what you want? Well, she's not here. She didn't come here today. Yeah, how come? He used to come till he will get me. This was from her house. But then I started to figure out she doesn't want me to date him. She said, don't date him. Get it. No, not this. Here, all this. But, a little girl yet. Till I opened my eyes, I said, she wants him. Why? Because he can make good money, can be a good husband, and all this. Well, 16 already, girl, they were thinking about marriage. So one day I caught her that she really wants to go with him.
So that's what made you want to be with him?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So slowly, we really, really loved each other. And everybody in that neighborhood where I used to live, they knew.
So tell me, because he was not very well received.
Not
But-
very well. He knows that.
Not
And I
very
had
well
a
received.
boyfriend.
Yeah, but not very well received by your parents, especially your mother.
No, my mother, she liked him.
Really?
And my father adored him.
Really? But he didn't speak the language.
He used to write to my mother from Polish to Ladino. The letters,
Really?
letters, notes, everything.
So how did he end up learning Ladino?
From my mother,
Really?
everything from my mother. He learns languages very fast. My mother loved him.
Why did she like him?
And Shmuel, sometimes he was very jealous that they love him more than they love.
So why did they like him?
Huh?
Why did they like him?
I don't know, because they saw how much he wants me, but they say he's a kid. He's a kid. And that time, 16, 17, you have to get married, otherwise you are old maid. This is the way it was. And you see, this was my parents, they wanted me to be with a guy that he had a manufacturer that make mattresses. This was across where my father was working.
Right.
And I usually left my bike at my father's place. They shouldn't steal it from me. And I went to I walked like 10 minutes. I was at work. And I came in the evening to pick up my bike. Come, my father used to say, he's such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. Come see. If you're going to say again, I'm not going to leave my bike here anymore. I don't want it, but he's a good person from good family. Family was very important. No, I didn't want it to see him. I didn't want anything, but I was going already with your father. But secret. My parents, they didn't know. And then once they punished me for a month, I can go out in the evening. And he used to come with the bike to the second floor, whistling, sitting in the garden over there, and we were talking. And Leah was listening for an hour and a half. But because I came home after curfew, you have to obey everything what your parents says. It's not like today. Today, to be a kid, it's much, much easier.
So now he's in the army.
Yeah. So through letters.
Yeah.
And I had a book with pages. Each letter, I translated that to Hebrew.
So what was
Hebrew to my book, I answered back. I sent a letter to him.
what language was he writing?
In
the letters?
Hebrew with mistake. Whatever his mistakes, I fixed for him.
Ah.
And actually he did very well. And I sent it to him. That's how he learned Hebrew. But meanwhile, he was learning Ladino too.
But he had to learn that stuff in the army. You can't survive without learning Hebrew in the army. Yeah.
Yes.
To speak it, but to write.
No, and then he started to speak in the army. 3 years, come on. When he finished,
Right.
he was perfect.
So,
But he didn't read fast.
So now at 18 years old, he's in the army.
18 and a half, we got married. He was 18 and a half.
So how did you plan all that?
Okay. When I was 17, I got already a letter to go and register for the army. The girls is 2 years. And my mother, she says to me and my father, we don't want you. You are a girl to go to the army and all this. We don't want it. You don't listen. We wanted you to get married with this guy with the mattresses. So you won't go to the army. So I was telling him my parents are very upset. They don't want me to go to the army. So he says, no problem, we'll get married.
That was that.
Yeah, you don't need a ring. He bought me a necklace and these earrings. That time, no one gave a ring. Now you have to have a ring.
So you had a quick wedding.
But nice wedding. We went to Tel Aviv, very small, 10 people, minyan, and photographers and everything. We had the pictures. And this was in the newspaper, the youngest couple of the year. He was 18 and a half, and I was 17 and a half.
So he didn't leave the army with permission,
Yes,
and he knew he was going to have to
pay the price.
pay the price, right? And so
I didn't know.
he-
I didn't know.
he decided that he was going to
24 hours.
stay a longer vacation. So he stayed like a week,
No, not even.
not even, and then he went back. So now you're married and you're living apart for 3 years.
Well, he came on a vacation every 2 months, 3 months. For the last year, he came every other week.
Oh, wow.
And sometime, the last year, 2 years, this was tough. But sometime he sent, a soldier with a jeep to pick me up and bring me to base. And they gave him a room, a nice room with drapery and everything,
Wow.
furniture. He got a room for us. So to eat, this is for the officers, we ate. But he made a little business there to have pocket money. You know, one thing I'm going to tell you, because you are a lot like him. He was at the army, used to come, we want to go out. So sometimes I used to buy the tickets early on Friday because I didn't want he should worry about money. And how many times they pay very little, very little. Not even for transportation, you have to hitchhike. So my father didn't want they should do that. He says, "Man, take it, some money." And his father, he says, "No, thank you so much." But his parents, they never offered. Never, just they took everything from him. But you know the rest of the story.
I heard that part of the story.
Well, you didn't know for a long time. Our heart is still burning. That money was the most important money in our life. Millions is not important like that money.
So he's a guy that has a lot of energy
A lot of potential.
and aspirations.
Yes. So
And he seems to have big plans. So now he comes back from the army.
he comes back for no. First of all, I have to finish with my stuff. We got married on a Tuesday, and I had to be there in the base. They called my name to go on the bus to go to the army. I didn't notify that.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't know because I thought I got married, so I'm out. Oh my God! They sent me a letter. They could have locked me up, because I said I didn't know. So why you don't want to go to the army? They didn't have enough people then. Right now, you can pick and choose what you want to do in the army. And they don't want everybody, only smart people. So they called me to court. Leah told me, you better go to court. You're not going to get out of it. They're going to take you because you don't have children. I said, I'm not going to have children with what? I don't have where to live. I live at home. My sister is in my room. And anyway, say that you are religious. Religious girls, they don't go. Say over there that you are religious. I went to the office. I said, listen, I didn't come on the bus. I didn't know. And I got married. And this was my wedding. And I thought if I'm married, I don't go to the army. He said, yes, if you're not religious, you do go to the army. But part-time, like 2 months a year, you have to work and help in the hospitals and stuff like that. I said, I didn't know, but I am religious, I said. Leah told me to say that. He says, how come you saying you are religious? Well, I thought everybody is religious. No, we are Jewish people. We all believe in this. So I didn't know they're going to take me to court from the army. Oh, don't ask how many times I went.
You had to
This
keep
was a
going.
rabbi with the army uniform with a beard like that. I should explain all the rules and regulations. How married wife supposed to live with her husband?
Oh boy.
And I didn't even know all those things.
You should talk about the hole in the sheet.
She gave me lessons there. And I would said all this about dishes, about kosher. That's it. This what it is.
So he comes back from the army. He's 21.
Yes, our papers were ready to come to United States.
So you already knew before then that
You know what? My mother and father, my father especially, he didn't want me to leave the country.
Yeah, because he believed that he sacrificed everything for the place that he believed was home and helped build the
Right.
country.
Right. So his mother, Sophie, they were friends with my parents. They played cards. They went out to eat, And she said to my mother, I wasn't there, to my mother and father, listen, Rachel, Mordechai, we are going to America. And now they are married. So they can do whatever they want, right? Now she comes on his papers because he had someone, Sam Toporek, that brought him to this country. So we have the papers. We living now. He's still in the army. This was the last year of the army. He said the papers are ready, and her information are with the American embassy. Everything. He finishes the army. They're gonna come to United States. If they don't want it, they still will have this for a period of time. The paper they can decide to come or not. So we moved to their apartment. This was right by the school where I went.
I got all this whole story.
Okay, so that's it.
But how did you agree? How did you agree that you wanted to go
to where?
To America?
Because your father always we had talks. We were kids. Before we got married, he always said, I am not going to stay in Israel. I said, why? This is our country and I am all for it. Like my father, he said, if you want, I can stay in this country, but I don't want to have kids. I am not going to raise children because how many mothers, they kill themselves, the son is dead, the daughter is dead. They come with the pink paper over there. So they know somebody died, crying and screaming outside. He said, I am not going to have kids. And I'm going to live my life so tense and nervous till my kid will be 50. He's going to be released from going to the army. And I can imagine myself, me having a kid, and one day they're going to tell me he's gone. I won't be able to live with myself. I want to go raise family in a safe country, and I have the chance to go to a safe country.
So you knew that when you were dating him before you got married?
Yes, I thought he doesn't mean it. I didn't even wanted to believe him. I said,
so what happened when you realized he meant it?
Because the Arab, he took our apartment because Michal, he never did the papers the right way, and they took the apartment.
Oh, so you had nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go, and I'm not going to go back to my mother.
But that's a big decision to say, okay,
and
I have nowhere to go.
He didn't start even working yet.
No, that's a big decision to go from, I have nowhere to go. The situation is terrible. We just lost the apartment.
But to be honest, I wanted children. But if I'm going to have children, I was thinking I want the safety of my children.
So you started to
Agree with that.
agree with it. Okay.
Yes.
So there's another question I have to ask you. It's something I didn't ask Daddy.
What?
So you get married to someone that wants to take you out of the country. So that's one issue.
Yeah.
The other is you're actually unsure whether he can actually have children. Because one of the stories I didn't talk about with Daddy was, when he fell out of the tree and fell in a place
Yeah.
that, is not very comfortable.
And they thought he's not going
Yeah,
to
and the
be
doctor
able to
told
have
him,
kids.
the doctor told him,
You're not going to.
you'll know whether you have kids by the time you're 21. And if
Right.
you don't have kids by the time you're 21, you're probably never going to have
Never.
kids.
Yes.
And so the deal he made with you was if you don't have kids by the time you're 21,
Because he knew that I wanted.
he would leave you
And I said no.
because he didn't want you to live a life where you
Right.
couldn't have kids. So now you agree to leave the country, go to America.
My parents, they didn't know that.
And you know that there's a chance he may not be able to have kids, and you're
Right.
going, but were you comfortable with the idea that you would be able to
No,
come back, or you didn't
I-
believe it?
I didn't think that we're not going to have kids.
Okay.
They didn't sit right with me. So we came to this country. I got pregnant right away. Your brother, a beautiful boy.
So before we go there, so now you decide to leave. I'm sure your parents are very unhappy.
My mother fainted in Haifa. That time they didn't have airplanes, only by big ship or NASA's. We came. And I'm all the way on top of the ship, and I see she's on the floor. She fainted.
Because she couldn't believe you.
She couldn't believe it that I'm leaving. She couldn't believe it.
So on that boat ride, I mean, how long is that boat ride?
15 days.
15 days now.
Because we went through Canada.
So what's going through your head, or whether you're going to a new country on another boat, really far away?
Right.
Were you crying? Were you upset?
Crying? Oh my God. In the beginning, we lived with grandma for 3 months. This was like hell till I found a job. And with no money, they took everything from us.
So no money, you don't know the language.
No, nothing.
So what kind of job did you get?
I worked in 38th Street and 7th Avenue.
Doing what?
Silk blouses for Saks Fifth Avenue.
So you were working in the garment district making
Right.
dresses.
Right.
And that's where grandma worked.
Grandma worked in a different place.
So I remember going to the factory with grandma years later, just rows of sewing machines.
But I worked only 8 months and Michael was born.
So
this was tough.
So now you're living in Brooklyn at this point. You don't know the language.
No, we're not living in Brooklyn yet. I started to work.
Yeah.
And the subway scared the hell out of me. Who saw subway? What is this? Those buildings with the bricks. Oh, it's disgusting. We want everything modern, like in Israel. Crying every night. I went to sleep crying and crying and crying. Okay, we saved the money. And I made $75 a week. He made $40 for 6 weeks. For 6 days a week. $40. He didn't know the language, anything. I said, listen. And then we moved to Brooklyn. We saved some money. Yeah, this was all Jewish, German Jewish, right? By Botanical Garden across the street. Michael actually, for 2 years, he enjoyed that park. And without language, with debris at home, and I called even Goyim to come to the breeze.
Oh, because you didn't have 10 men?
We don't even talk, so We had a very nice neighbor. And he had a very nice breeze. But where I worked, the guy was a religious Jewish with his wife, the factory. It was so nice. I used to take the train from Botanical Garden over there all the way to 38th Street. Make it a little lower, the,
Okay.
the cooling. So we saved money, and I told Daddy, the minute we have money just to pay rent, I don't care if we don't have furniture, we'll sleep on the floor even. I'm moving out.
Out of Brooklyn.
No, out of Forest Hills.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we went there. A friend of Grandma, they help us to buy a few things. We waited for a bed. So the mattress came. We used the
So
mattress.
you're in Brooklyn.
Yeah. And we fixed the apartment beautiful.
Did you like Brooklyn?
Botanical Garden, I enjoyed it. I loved it. But, and I met mothers with babies, from Cuba, Jewish from Cuba.
Right.
And one from Colombia. We knew what time to go to the park was very nice. And the one that I went to the doctor, actually, she had a girl and I had a boy. And this, the same doctor, we met in the doctor's office. And we went together. They were born 2 hours apart, the two. But was very nice. But
so tell me what it's like. You're now in a new country. You still barely know the language.
Yeah.
And,
No, I started already.
So describe how you learn the language.
Okay. How I learned everything is, whatever I know is from your brother.
But my brother wasn't born.
Okay, when he was born. We moved to Brooklyn in March, the first week in March.
Right. But before you even had a kid, like, how did you start to learn language?
And at work, actually, they spoke Spanish, and the owner in Hebrew spoke to me.
Okay.
And he was so nice.
But to go to the grocery store, how did you figure out how to say even broken words in English?
Oh, no, I started to say things.
From
Yeah, I was
TV?
3 months. TV. I didn't watch. The first month I watched, I saw how they killed Kennedy.
Okay.
And I didn't know what they were saying. I was dying to know. But I learned slowly from listening.
Okay.
And then when Michael was born, he was born in December, we moved to this apartment in March. So I started right away. I said, I have to teach the kid pictures and stuff. My dream was that I'm going to have a kid in Israel. He's going to be the best in the class because I am going to help it. This is the way I felt.
Right.
And I registered myself to Dr. Seuss books.
Okay.
Once a month, you get the book.
Yeah.
And I used to put him in bed 5 months, 6 months, and I read like a normal person. I show him the picture. If I didn't know one word, according to the picture, in English.
So you taught yourself how to read?
To him. And he used to go, wow, wow, with his feet, playing, show him. But he didn't know for 3 years. He was 3 years old. He didn't know English. Fluently Hebrew.
Wow.
Fluently. He started nursery school. I said, oh my God, what a mistake now. My kid, he doesn't know the language. How he's going to manage? 1, 2, 3, learn. And he was the best in English.
So describe what it was like. You moved to a new country. You barely know the language. You have a kid.
I'll tell you what motivated me.
What was going through your head? That's a lot.
Why going to me? A lot of stress. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have my mother with me to help me out. I don't know how to speak. I don't know what to do with this baby. This is not a doll. And he didn't know what. To bathe him, I'm scared, his head. Well, he peed on us and everything, but
Every baby pees.
watching how we're going to watch it. Meanwhile, we got it. So we slowly, I learned everything. And I think I learned the right way, everything on my own, everything. I didn't have a mother-in-law to help me.
Did you ever want to go back?
I'm telling you, the only thing that pushed me to be, in United States in the beginning, I said to your father, I cannot live in this country. I cannot live in this. I don't want to. I miss my siblings. I miss my family. Everybody's there. I went through very, very emotional times. He says, I'll make a deal with you. The first money that we're going to save, this was in Brooklyn already. The first money, you're going to go to Israel. And I thought by ship, by then, no. Michael was 9 months old, already planes would stop
Yeah.
in Germany or England. And they would, because the plane didn't go direct flight,
Right.
they were small planes. That it will go. This motivate me. I want. Okay, it was 9 months. He says, you can go now. Take the baby. Let your parents enjoy. This is the first grandson, granddaughter they had Rachel. And enjoy yourself there. I went there and I see life is not easy in Israel. Very, very tough.
So this is
Over here I had
1960,
no 64, 65.
65. Okay, so 1960.
63 we came to United.
Right. Okay, so 1960.
I went
You
there
had your first comparison of life in the United States, which felt very chaotic.
I had washer and dryer in my apartment, a big kitchen.
And your mother is still doing wash by hand.
Yes, she didn't want machine.
Right.
But I did it with the machine. But I saw how difficult she does by hand, all this, the skin, very, very tough. And we used to tell her, Mom.
And they're still, that was sort of a period of peace, though, where there were no real wars going on in the 60s in Israel. Right.
No, but after that,
Why?
67 and
Oh, right. So 67.
67 and the during 4-day, 6-day war.
Which really was.
I was here.
So 1967, when there's a war, and you're in the U.S.,
Yes.
Carol's born.
My mother was with me. She came to help me.
Oh, she was with you when the war broke out?
Yes, the last plane back to Israel because my father says immediately to come back because we are going to have a big war and they were attacking already. So the last plane, she always came open ticket. But she wanted to help me with Carol and she did help me a lot. 2 little ones.
Yeah.
And I had already big house and you didn't see that house. Oh, you were born there. Yeah. And the last plane. And then they closed the airport.
So she went on the last plane?
She went on the last plane because they took Chaim. They took Chaim and this wasn't time for him to go yet.
So what was it like? I mean, you're getting news reports and things like that.
Very difficult.
But what was it like being here, knowing that your family...
And they didn't have telephone. Leah's...
Your parents didn't have a telephone.
They didn't for many years because they give telephone only to a needy. They had a very sick person at home. So they waited online, Saturday, she let everybody use the telephone and they'll pay her. This was very expensive. So what I used to tell her, this time I'm going to call, wait.
But you would write letters. I remember
letters.
the piece of paper
Yeah.
that you folded that was
Yeah.
already prepaid
Right.
postage, the blue letter.
Right. But then the telephone, I didn't even bother. Very little letters because my mother said, write more in details. So was the war. This was very bad. At that time, the attack from the Golan Heights, Yom
Right.
Kippur.
So that was 1973.
No, I don't know. 67.
67. It might have been 67.
67 war, yeah. Then that's where the two officers got hurt. They sent them to Kentucky.
Right.
And Chaim was very, very upset. He was the only one who lived. All of them, they chopped their heads on the table. They were eating. You see, when you are in the army and this is Yom Kippur, you don't have to fast because you are in tafkid.
So tell me what happened in Chaim's
Chaim,
battalion.
he came because he said his officer is going to stay there and the other one. Two officers. He came home. He was home for Yom Kippur.
So he wasn't there when it
And
happened.
then he went immediately to Golan. And this was very tough. They killed the whole.
So that added even more stress, being in the US, not being able to understand what was going on. So
All my life, this was stress. This is stress even now.
Right, but did you start to feel like you had made the right decision to be in the United
Yes.
States at that point?
Yes. The
Yes.
future of my children, this is my happiness.
And how did your father feel?
My father, I had only Michael then.
No, you had
No,
Michael and
Michael, I had Amanda already when he passed.
No, but how did your father feel like you had made the right decision to stay?
Yes.
Yeah.
But my father, he came to United States when he was 57, something like that. He wasn't old. And we told him, stay in this country. You can live. We had 2 floors. The first floor downstairs, you have your own kitchen, your own bathroom, living room, dining room.
And they would come and stay for months at a time.
7 months they stayed. We wanted they should stay for good. He says, I'll die there. This is my home. This is my country. You young people, you have to go ahead in life. Your life is already much, much better than ours in Israel. This way, your children, they'll live a better life. Not only money,
No, just
security,
the safety and
living,
the security.
safety, schooling. Schooling is very important. For my mother, this was the most important thing.
Even though it's something you never got.
I never got that.
So, okay, so now you have 2 children. You end up buying a house in Far Rockaway.
I bought a house in Far Rockaway when I was pregnant with Carol.
So,
Big house. Michael was crying. He didn't want to move from that house. He loved that house.
so now it's the 60s. Daddy's working a lot of jobs. You're trying to raise 2 kids.
Right. But I helped him on top of it to estimate all the jobs, the city jobs.
Well, that
I
was
knew the
that was a
pattern.
little bit later.
Yeah.
So, like, now you have 2 young kids. You know, you're trying to, like, describe, like, what it felt like to be a mom.
This was very, very hard that I didn't have my family with me. This was the big minus. But I had to overcome it. Now I have a family of my own, and I have to care for those people, my life or my children.
So, at that point, you're young, right? You're
24, I was when Carol was
24
born.
years old. Daddy's 25. What did you do for fun? Did you get to have fun?
We never went out. Just if they had some affair, bar mitzvah or wedding, I used to take babysitter for that. And I didn't believe in babysitters. I was scared.
No, but what did you do? But even with the kids?
What fun? What time for fun? Nothing. I wanted to learn how to drive. So at like 8 o'clock at night, that the two kids are in bed already around the block and the house in Far Rockaway to drive.
So before that, you didn't have a license?
You kidding me? Cost a lot of money to have license in Israel.
Oh no, not in Israel, but here. You were
He didn't
taking.
have a license either.
Oh, so he was taking the train to work.
He was taking the train, and then he bought one clunker to put his pipes and stuff there. But the first money that we had, we bought this used car. Then when we moved to Far Rockaway, we bought a new car.
So you're in Far Rockaway for about
7 to 8 years.
7 years, maybe even 6,
No,
because
7.
how old was Michael when you moved to Far Rockaway?
He was like 10.
No.
Carol at 8.
No, I only lived in no way. Because
You moved to to Long Island when you were 2.
right, so it's 19.
Right.
Okay. So when I was 2, so okay, yeah, that might be right that they were there.
He was 10 years old. He didn't want it. He said, no, this house is small. It's not spacious. It's not this.
So now you have 3 kids. You know, Daddy is starting his electrical business.
Right. He got his license.
And you decide to move to an affluent area of Long Island.
Yes.
So tell me why that was important.
First of all, I tell you, I used to send the kids to yeshiva. And Michael already was in 5th grade. They started to learn Gemara. And for me, it's not important, this Gemara. This is like a different language. And he used to come home loaded with homework. We didn't have any fun, the kid. Just going back to school and homework and all this. And I heard from people that to buy a house, and District 14 is the best school, and that school is better than a private school. So they come home 3:30 if they have even extra activities in school, but they have time to breathe, to play, to do things, to go to friends. They don't have time for anything at the yeshiva. And this bothers me. I thought that I'm keeping the child back. That's why I put you in Brandeis.
Right, which wasn't as strict of a school.
Wasn't that strict? No,
Right.
that's why I didn't want strict.
But you really chose that area
Because of
it had a school district.
And
so-
lucky me, this was a nice house by the water.
So here's a sort of interesting from my perspective, having grown up there. On a relative basis, that was a really nice house
Very nice.
for you, and you loved it.
And I thought that I'm going to die there.
It was on the water to the bay.
Yeah.
And I think what you didn't really understand is the affluence that was there. And, you know, the people that lived in Hewlett Harbor and in all those places that had crazy money.
Yeah.
So you had it wasn't the least expensive area. It was probably the second least expensive area that you could buy a home and still go to that school.
Right.
And that school was one of the best schools because of all the wealthy families that lived there.
Right.
And so what's sort of interesting, having gone through it, is being on the outside of what most people were in that area. So not having American parents and having another language spoken at home. We lived in an area and a block that actually had a lot of people that spoke different languages. Right. It was Korean. I mean, everybody was different. But most of the school was American for multiple generations.
Right.
And it was interesting growing up there because I resented not being like the other
Like,
kids
yeah.
because I was always felt different. And then what's even more interesting, and Nir and I have this conversation all the time, is that Nir tried to be friends with me. And he said that I was mean to him.
Oy,
And I know why I was mean to him. It wasn't an accident. I didn't want, even though I wasn't part of the American kids, I also didn't want to be part of, you know, all the kids that didn't speak English either. And so that really left me very alone
uh-huh.
from like a friend standpoint until, you know,
High school.
until high school, and where some of my friends just broke down those barriers, and I started to realize, I probably have a lot more in common with these kids than I actually understood. And none of them were wealthy. They just happened to live in different areas that were similar to the way we were. But their parents mostly had white collar jobs. Like, even though dad wore a button down shirt, even though what he did was blue collar.
Because most of the time he was in the office.
I know that, but it was different. Like, everyone knew he worked with his hands.
Right.
And those were just growing up in that house. It was just different. And what the place
You see, when
where
I purchased this house, I didn't think this way. I just,
I know
I
you were
was,
doing the best thing
I
that
know,
you thought for your
I thought
kids.
the school should be good,
Right.
good kids. I always was afraid of drugs and stuff like that, especially in high school.
Where I did feel most comfortable, where it didn't matter, money didn't matter, was sports. And actually, there's a story that I always think about, because we used to ride our bikes to whatever sport it
Yeah.
was, and you would, go do things. But sports was the great equalizer, because whether you had money or not, if you were good, you were good. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so whether it was you were playing football or stickball or baseball or whatever it is, that I ended up understanding that if I had sports, that I would always have my place.
Right.
And that became
And
where
not
I
only
felt
place,
comfortable.
special place.
Yeah. And it was a special place. But I remember something very distinctly, because one sport that it didn't matter if you had money or not was tennis.
Tennis.
And I remember, you know, I would go to the tennis courts with Michael and Carol with wooden rackets. And we would find them at a garage sale, and we're like, oh, let's just go to the middle school. We'll try and play, whatever. And then that's where we found the rackets. And then we had the metal Jimmy Connors racket.
Yes, Jimmy
And
Connor.
then we had the Prince racket. And we bought them at garage sales.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried out for the middle school tennis team. And I remember seeing these kids with these Adidas outfits and collared shirts. And I'm wearing like a ripped t-shirt and tight shorts. I knew the rules, but I was athletic, and I made the team. There were kids that had tennis courts in their backyards, that had private lessons 3 days a week,
Right.
that I beat out to be on that team, and they hated me. And that's actually one of the places where I started to realize, I was like, huh, like, doesn't really matter how much money
Doesn't
you
matter.
have. Like, it just matters
Exactly. If you
if
are
you're
good.
good. And then I remember I played this kid. It was just an internal match on the team, and he was way better than me. But I figured out a way to beat him, and I was faster than him, so I just keep hitting these shots that would make him run, and I just exhausted him. And 2 days later, he calls the house and he demands that I play him again. And I said, no, I don't need, like, that doesn't sound fun. Like, if we have to play, like, I'll play, but like, I'm not going to play just because you
He
feel like
wants
you
it.
need to beat me. And his dad is in the background screaming at him like, you have to convince him to play. You can't lose to him.
Right.
And I remember like it was
The parents, they got involved too much
it
in
was
all the sports.
you can't get beat by a kid who doesn't get tennis lessons 3 days a week.
No, you got tennis lessons.
Well, I used to go to that. Well, that's when I started to really realize.
Really?
And then I would get the snot kicked out of me by kids who were really good. But
Yeah.
that's where it didn't matter becoming an athlete. But
No, but you were happy at that school.
I was very happy
Let
at
me
the
tell you,
school.
I didn't care where I was going to move as long as it was a good school.
I was happy at the school, but when I got hurt
Oh.
in 7th grade, and I
Not
couldn't.
7th grade. This was the
7th
first
grade.
year in high school.
No, I got hurt in 7th grade. It was before my bar mitzvah. I remember my science teacher. I remember I had to have the sling for months. And I remember she was the big note taker science teacher, and I couldn't do the notes. She would check your notebook and everything. And I remember being very depressed because at that point, I realized my whole one place that I felt like I could be myself and not feel excluded or different was playing sports. And it got taken away from me, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I ended up coming back and playing in high school, but I was never the kind of player I was, after that. So that made me feel very lonely, and I went from dominating at a sport to really having nothing. And most of high school
I
was
thought this
very
was
it was my shoulder.
that this was in high school.
No, that was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Because I didn't play my 8th grade year, but then I started to play again in high school.
Again.
But then I was an outfielder, and I wasn't pitching anymore.
Very dangerous pitching.
No, it's not that it's dangerous. I just, I was doing too many stupid things that I shouldn't have been doing at a young age. But no, I wish I appreciated it in a different way. And I wish I appreciated the house I grew up in more.
Michael appreciated the most.
But
he said,
but
we'll never sell this house. There's going to be a museum.
No, but he has a different, he was 8 years older than me. He had a different perspective. The only thing I knew was being raised in an affluent area, not being affluent.
Right.
That was my perspective. And until I went to college and met more people that really came from nothing and were there for the education, and even after college, when I started to work, like I've always gravitated toward people that came from very little. I've never gravitated toward people that
Why is that?
Because I can relate to them. I can relate to them in a way that I feel normal, that it's an appreciation of where I came from. I have a much harder time relating to people that are like generationally wealthy for wealth. Like, I really appreciate people who came from a family that built it from nothing.
This is very good feeling.
And most of my partners come from that background. We all wrote our origin stories of, how our family started. Reading those stories, there's a reason why we're all partners. We all came from nothing, but all had the opportunity of education. That's the common thread.
This is the most important part.
And we all took advantage of it. And whether we wanted to or not, our parents all valued education and forced it.
Education is first.
All right, so we got a little bit off track, but
It's okay.
That was a good
nice
conversation.
Stories.
So you've got 3 kids. You're raising them. He's working like a madman. How are you keeping it all together?
Very hard job. This was the hardest
So
job.
it's not like you had a maid. It's not like you
No,
had
nothing.
any of those things.
The first time that we went on vacation, I mean real vacation, skiing, all these weekends, he tried to give his time to his children. He tried. And every weekend, this I cannot complain. Camping, skiing, whatever it is.
We know how much you like the camping. Skiing.
And just
Two things you hated, we did almost every
to
weekend.
pack all this stuff. But anyway, it was for you guys. But he tried. He worked very, very hard, till he was 50.
So I'm trying to understand, what are the things that you enjoyed?
Nothing, just my children.
No, but even with your children, what did you enjoy with your children? I know you enjoyed coming to baseball games and things like
Oh, the game. But since they were little, I enjoy seeing them going to school every day. And the bus stop, they came home. And I am there, you know. And how was your day? How was this? I enjoy all this very, very much, very much. This was the best of my life. So what did I miss? I didn't miss much. You left for college. We start traveling and we did the world. We didn't miss anything. We
that. Yeah,
still were very
you
young
you gave every ounce of your energy to
to
your
the
kids.
children. And this is the best thing that I have in my life, my children, even today.
So when I was a kid, you decided to go back to work. So Carol and Michael were in.
I worked like 6 to 7 years
So what made you decide that you wanted to go do that?
because Michael always was worried. He's the first one. You have to remember, it's not easy. He was afraid about college. I said, listen, college.
Afraid about the money.
Forget about the money. Worried about the money. I wish you would worry about money now. But he worried so much. I said, you're going to go to school. We'll do everything in our power. And he used to come after me, Mommy, you think I'll be able to go to college? I said, I'm going to sell the house and you're going to go to college.
Yeah, I remember
College is
that
first.
you were going to do everything possible.
Everything is possible. And then I learned my lesson. I didn't know anything about college over here and the rules and all the stuff to help my children, application, stuff like that, like you guys do now. I didn't know anything. And the only person who gave us lessons, this was Michael and everything. But I appreciate the way the patient and the way he cared made him very special person. And where is this person? I don't know. I'm looking for him. But I think deep inside is a very good heart, very good heart. He lost himself. He lost. But I think I did all the best that I can. He said, but I want to go to graduate school and all this. Okay, was double the money college graduate school. But he went and he paid his loans and everything. But I learned my lesson. Oh, I need a lot of money for stuff like that. Well, you are 8 years apart. I opened a savings book, part over here, part for spending, you know.
So one thing I've realized, and you and I joke about it a lot, you have a very deep relationship with each one of your kids.
Each one differently.
It's very different. And you have a very different relationship with Michael, and Michael describes it as a very deep relationship as well that
Does?
that I'll never really understand. He's the oldest, and he went through things with you.
Like I did, I went through things.
But you went through things with him in a different
Not
way.
like with him, like the older kids.
No,
they
but
are
there's
older.
not that big of, there's an age gap, but, you know, he helped you understand the Americanized world as he was going through school, and he had certain
Even I
responsibilities.
name my children American names.
Right, but he had to go through the experience of helping educate his own parents
Yes.
and teach them about whatever he learned about business or politics or whatever it is.
Yes.
And that is a very different responsibility.
Yes.
And I didn't have those same responsibilities as
Right.
him. And I have different responsibilities. They're not, any smaller. And I think,
And different things.
but my responsibilities came later on in my life through, you know, different relationships that I ended up creating with daddy that didn't happen until later on. You and I had a very different relationship, and I remember it very clearly when I was a kid. Um, I always had a snack when I came home. I always, we would always watch our soap operas together, and I would fall asleep on your lap or whatever. And I wasn't doing the homework or anything like that. And, I would help you clean the house when I was a kid, and I liked vacuuming and, I liked dusting and I liked having jobs
when we went
doing
away,
things.
especially.
And I liked being independent. And, one thing I haven't really talked about with anybody, probably but you, is growing up, I got teased by, my siblings and even daddy to a certain extent that I was a mama's boy. And
Actually, they
and
thought
I
Michael was a mama's boy.
no, but that's Carol even still says to this day that she thinks that I am. And I resented it. And I remember, but there was a certain point where I know what the reason was. The reason was, if I cried sometimes or was upset about
No, very
things.
good kid. No, the reason is I raised two children, one after the other, all by myself. A young girl, I am a child yet. This was very, very difficult. When I had you, I was close to 30 years old.
Yeah, and they were in school.
And I
you had
enjoy
time.
myself to be a mom. It's easy. I enjoy my
That's what
child.
Stacy says about Noah.
The best, the best.
But they would tease me, and I remember there was a certain point, maybe when I was like 10 years old, where I said, the only way they're going to stop doing this is if I don't hug you as often, or I don't say I love you. And I mean, you and I talked about this recently, that I went decades without ever saying it.
Because
And
love is, I think, is inside.
right. And you and I always knew that we had that connection. But looking back on all of that, I'm actually proud that I had that relationship.
I like to express myself with my heart, not with my, I love you, I love you, I love you. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I got used to it.
Okay, so I have a few last questions.
Oh, come on.
So we talked about
You're going to make movies out of it?
maybe. So we talked about the things you're most proud of, which is your kids and your family.
My kids is my life.
What is the number one regret that you have?
About what? About
Anything.
my family?
No, anything.
I have no regrets, honestly. Maybe I'm not normal.
I mean, I know for me, I have only one regret.
What?
Not doing the rehab to play baseball in college.
If I knew what I know now,
Me too.
this would have been different.
But I can't, and that's the conversation I have with my kids all the time, is that I cannot buy you that time back. And I can also not buy you that drug that you get, that you feel of playing on a field and excelling. You can't learn it in a book. You can't buy it in a
Right.
store.
This is
You can only feel it when that's happening. So I know what my one regret is. And maybe yours, after having this conversation, was because I think the thing that got you the
I
most
know. I
upset.
know now what is the regret, that I had to read a book about life, family life in United States. They go college, they go all this. I didn't know anything about it.
But I think the thing that got you most upset through these conversations was the lack of opportunity you had for education and the constant having to fill in gaps of, you know, making up for the difference and not having a formal education.
Right? This is the thing that it crippled me.
Do you think?
What I learned at that time, in one notebook, they cut in half. They didn't have pencil. You use it till it's this big. I didn't have even the material. And this makes me feel
So what have you done in your life to fill in those gaps? Like you read full books
now
in
I
English,
read everything, yes.
right? And you write entirely, and
Not the way everybody writes.
that's true. But
But
you
everything is on my
no, but
own.
you wanted to learn
You
interior
should,
design
this
and
American person should learn Hebrew on their
yeah,
own
impossible.
and write and read.
Okay, so I have a separate set of questions now that I want to ask you. I don't think it'll take very long, but it weaves into um, a lot of what you said about your father and his passion for the state of Israel. So I know after October 7th, um, that was very difficult for you and very difficult for Daddy. And Daddy's been also watching the Ukraine war. So now
I am watching all the time.
so now there's, two wars that you're following. So after reading that book, which is where we started the conversation, I told you about that I got 2,000 years of perspective on the state of Israel, not the state of Israel, the land of Israel. And what I never really understood is that for close to 2,000 years, even though that was the land that we were given the book,
Right.
and that was the land that was the Jewish people's land, we were kicked out of that land.
Right.
And there were some Jews that obviously stayed,
Right.
but everybody else was dispersed, and basically everybody lived in these ghettos.
Right.
Because that's what Ladino is. Ladino is a ghetto language.
Right.
So every city basically created these walled in areas of where Jews would live, and so they would come up with their own language. And so it's not been very many years on that horizon of 2,000 years where it's only been 75 years where Israel's a country. It's a speck on the timeline.
Exactly.
And do you fear that Israel may not exist?
I do.
So tell me about that, because you grew up at a time where it was just coming out of the Holocaust. Like Europe was a mess. That, and your parents, your father left Turkey to go to Israel for safety.
Right.
Dad left Poland because they were basically kicked out.
Right.
And I'm going to give you a statistic, but it sort of blows my mind. 2% of the entire population is Jewish, yet is not considered a minority.
Right.
Yet
the Arabs are more in Israel.
Yet there are, but I don't just say it's the Arabs. There are people. I'm not going to say it's one group or
from
another.
all over the
There
world.
are people that want to eviscerate the Jews entirely. not just because that's what Hamas
Yeah,
has
yeah.
really been saying. It's, yeah, the land actually isn't even enough. We don't want them to exist.
Exist.
And that wake up call to me when I heard that after October 7th is like, oh, this isn't actually about land.
No,
This isn't actually about
land.
this isn't actually about, oh, let's make our own state. This is, we want to get rid of
Ouch.
you. And that is the exact same thing
Yeah,
that happened, during the Holocaust.
exactly.
And actually I think the mistake Israel is making is they're drawing parallels to ISIS, they're drawing parallels to
The
9/11.
Holocaust too.
But the Holocaust is the real issue where there's a direct attempt to eviscerate Jews off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And, I know we had this conversation when, some of our family that's there wanted to leave. And you actually had the reaction of,
To stay.
you need to stay.
Because I wanted to be
you
there.
left.
What? I left, but my heart is there. Home is over there. I told Stacy many times, you know what? This is my home. This is home to me.
So
I went through so many wars, scared to death from the sirens and the shooting and all this. And I still ran to school. I didn't stay at home. And I remember the way I was running, the way my mother told me, you don't run straight. You go zigzag, zigzag. No, she used to cheat me. She, you see, we didn't have oven, and she used to make burekas and the trail house.
Yeah.
So they had one place just for ovens. You put all the burekas in one.
Oh, yeah,
one,
yeah.
And you run. Moshe, go and bring this to the oven over there for Shabbat. No, everybody says no. Come over here, she said. Look, you see the wall? Yeah. By the time this will be dry, I know you'll be back. I used to kill myself. I used to put this in my head, running like a bazooka to bring this over there. She used to trick me. That's how she used to trick me to do some work for her.
She was a funny lady. She was the most stern person.
Adored her.
She was the most stern person, but loving at the same time.
Loving her children, worried,
and
grandchildren.
And the ability to say things with a stone cold face and then laugh at the end.
Yeah.
And I like that ability to do that. And she knew she would do things that were funny, that she just didn't care what people thought.
No,
like to this day, until the day she died, she didn't care.
Yeah.
She would say things that
Stacy remembers the Coca-Cola bottle.
Oh yeah, I mean, she just drank from the whole bottle. She doesn't care.
She didn't care. No, but somehow my parents were very, very close with Daddy. And when she died, he locked himself inside. Each time that he called me like every 2 hours. He was crying like a little kid till he destroyed his arm. He sat at the pool over there and doing the exercise.
No, because she treated him more like a son than his own mom.
More like a son.
Yeah.
Whatever she wanted to be fixed in that house, he was looking what is wrong, and he was.
No, they had a very,
but he was a different person. He never accepted anything from anybody.
Yeah.
From anybody. He was begging him. He says, "You are my son-in-law now. You need help till you finish the army. Maybe I will need help after you finish the army. You're going to help me." He says, "I'll help you, but I don't want anything."
Yeah, I'm not very good at accepting help.
Yeah.
I take it as an offense.
I don't want it.
I take it as an offense that I can't do it on my own.
Yeah, this is very difficult.
Mama, you did a great job.
We finished?
You finished.
Mazal tov. Oy, corazón sheli. Oh. You see? You don't have to do this stupidity. I feel it, Baba Sheli. I feel it.
Thanks for listening to the First Gen American podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Feel free to leave your comment and make sure to smash the subscribe button.